We continue our Masquerade sermon series. We look at today, as we look at the whole series has been looking at the mask, these internal masks that we wear to cover things up, to hide ourselves. I do want to make a disclaimer before you hear or two disclaimers. Is I want everyone to pay attention, and if you know someone that needs to hear this message this morning, it's on Facebook. Just tell them to watch it. Someone that may be dealing with this. But I do want to say that my family's not here this morning, not because they're mad at me, and not because I made them angry, or not because they knew what I was going to say. But it was homecoming weekend, and we woke up this morning in the Henegar household with about 15 or 20 girls all spread through our house, sleeping in cars everywhere. And I went to bed about 2 a.m. and they were still all there. So Kelly was there to be sure. She didn't want to leave a whole house full of teenage girls. But today we look at our sermon series on Masquerade, and during our sermon series Masquerade. And today we've established, if you've been following with us, this is the 4th week now, or 5th week. And if you've noticed that we said that we all wear these internal masks. And whether it's an internal mask or an external mask for Halloween, we've established that people wear these masks for 3 reasons. We wear these masks to hide something from others. We wear them to distance ourselves from others. And we wear these masks to make us look like something we're not. And the mask of anger does all 3, if you think about it. And the problem we have when we deal with this mask of anger, that we develop an attitude of, well, just don't get angry. Simple as that. Or we develop an attitude that anger is evil some way. It's a bad thing. And as I shared with the children, there are times in life when it's good to get angry. Righteous anger, it's called, is a good thing. We remember that whenever we witness an injustice or something threatens the ones we love, and we get angry and we're forced into action, that can be a good thing. Jesus displayed righteous anger. If you remember when he went into worship one Sunday and he saw these groups of people profiting and making a profit off the activities of the church. And remember, Jesus got so angry that he turned over the tables and he ran these people out of the church. That's a good type of anger. And anger is a natural emotion, but it's how we deal with that anger that causes problems in our life. And here's the problem. If you walk around with this mask of anger, if you're in a relationship with someone who constantly wears this mask of anger, it is a ticking time bomb. When we try to repress our anger, when we try to keep it hidden, it's impossible to do so. And eventually it will spill out and it will explode. And most of the time it will spill out at the most unexpected time in our life. And the mask of anger, when this comes out, can derail our life. And all of us, whether we think we wear this mask all the time, or all of us would agree this morning, if we can just put it out on the table, every one of us has done something, every one of us has said something, every one of us had reacted to something out of anger, and the minute we did it, the very second we did it, we wished we could take it back. And the tricky thing about this mask of anger is that some of us don't wear it regularly. And when we put it on, we're so wrapped up in the situation and it explodes from inside of us. We get so mad that others notice it before we do. And when we do something out of anger we regret, we simply say to ourselves after we calm down, well, okay, I'm just not going to get angry anymore. I'm just not going to let that person get me mad anymore. I'm not going to let that person do that to me anymore. And we try to fix our own anger in us sometimes. And we try to take off this mask of anger in 3 ways that aren't productive and that don't work. And the first way we do that, that's up on here if you want to write it down, is we try to fix the anger by distancing ourselves from those who make us angry. We distance ourselves geographically and emotionally. We try to avoid being in the same place at the same time with those people. We avoid their presence and we don't go near them. Emotionally, we do not connect with them or give them the nice pleasantries, or we just give them a cold shoulder whenever we see this. And we've all done this at times. We've distanced ourselves geographically and emotionally, but here's the problem. The problem is at some point, somewhere, something, and someone else is going to make us angry. Have any of you seen the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks? If you haven't, it's about this dude that's on a FedEx plane and it crashes and he's stranded on an island. And this guy gets mad, gets angry at a volleyball he names Wilson. A volleyball. A volleyball made him angry. And throughout the movie, it's him getting mad at this volleyball. We try to distance ourselves geographically and emotionally, and it just doesn't work. When we try to deal with our own anger. The second way we try to deal with it is we also try to fix it that doesn't work by hiding it from others. We just try to hide it from our boss. We just try to hide it from our spouse. We just try to hide it from our friends and our family members and even our church. I can recall one time on our way to church, something happened in the car. I can't even recall what, but we're driving to church one Sunday afternoon. It was when we were starting a new church. And one of those whole family blow-up moments happened in the car. And there was tension, and there was tears, and everyone's crying, and everyone's mad. And there's these tense moments that every family has at some time or another. And I can shamefully hearing me say, and it took me back to years ago because I could hear my mother say these exact words. We're walking into church, no crying. Everybody's got to put on a smile. Some of y'all heard that too. We're walking into church. Everyone, wipe your tears away. We can't have crying in baseball or church. And I remember walking in, and we're starting this church, and there's tons of new people, and the church is getting off the ground. And I remember one person coming up to me and say, "Tommy, are you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, why? Have you been crying? You look like you've been crying." "Crying? No way!" "Well, I saw your family in the car." "Oh, we were laughing. We were cutting it up in the car. We were cutting up a storm. We were laughing so hard." You can't hide it. You can't hide it. And we tend to hide it from those around us. But sometimes we tend to explode on those that are close to us. Any Andy Griffith Show people fans in the house this morning? Do you remember the episode where there was a couple always fighting with one another, but they were so nice to everyone else in Mayberry? And we call that domestic dispute now, but back then, Andy would go to their house on these calls, and they would always be fighting. So he worked with this couple to be real nice to each other, and they got to each other to say, "Hello, dear. Hello, dear." And then, as they did that, they began to be mean and angry and pick fights with everyone else in Mayberry. It's funny, but that's how it works. And it's funny how some of us are so nice to the people that we don't care about, and we show our anger to those that we do care about. And it should be in reverse, shouldn't it? I mean, when we think about it, some of us show our best behavior to the people who, in the long run, are insignificant to our lives, but we show our worst behavior to those that we do love and care about. The third way that we try to fix our anger that doesn't work is we try not to just get mad. And the problem is that it's impossible. It's impossible to go through life and not get mad because something or someone or some situation is eventually going to make us angry. I mean, we got to drive, don't we? I mean, ask Tom Hanks after he got mad on a desert island with a volleyball. And you can try not to get angry, but eventually it's going to come out. So we have these three ways that we try to fix or remove the mask of anger by ourselves that don't work. So let's now shift, if we can, our attention on what will work. How do we take off this mask of anger once and for all? Remember, if you've been following along, remember I said that each mask we wear it because we have a motivating mindset behind it. There's something behind it that motivates us to keep these masks on. And we rationalize it in our minds whether we're conscious of it or not. And we said that the motivating mindset of worry was a lack of trust. The motivating mindset of pride, was inadequacy or not being open to be teachable. We said the motivating mindset, of greed was a scarcity mindset. And the motivating mindset behind anger, it's harder to define. Because we say we're angry because we're angry. We say we're angry because we're mad. So it's harder to define. And then we say, well, why do we get mad? Why do we get angry? And this morning, if you will, let us look at Scripture and look at the first recorded occurrence of anger. Now, this is right after God created everything. He created Adam and Eve, and Adam and Eve had two sons. They had Cain, who was the oldest, who was a farmer and a grazer. And then they had Abel, who was the youngest, and a shepherd and a hunter. I think if you defined them now, Cain would have been a farmer, and Abel would have been a rancher, I guess. And both boys were taught. They were taught by Adam and Eve to bring an offering, their sacrifices, to God. Why? Because if you were here last week, it illustrates that God and God alone was their source of everything they had. So if you will, join with me in the 4th chapter of Genesis, beginning with the 3rd verse, as we look at what makes us mad. In the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground, and Abel, for his part, brought of the firstlings of his flock their fat portions. And the Lord had regarded for Abel and his offerings, but for Cain and his offerings he had no regard. So Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. The Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? And why has your countenance fell?" Countenance falling means that he was looking down. Some of your versions may say that he was cast down. He would not look up at God. The Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you don't do well, sin is lurking at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must master it." Most biblical scholars agree that the reason God looked in favor on Abel's offering and not Cain's is because Abel brought the firstborn. He brought the best. And Cain just sort of picked up some fruit on his way to church off the ground. And remember last week we said that the tithe, giving back to God on the front end and not the back end. Abel was intentional about his sacrifice, and Cain was just kind of flippant about it. And that's why most say that's why God favored Abel's instead of Cain. And God did not show favor to Cain, and Cain was angry. His face was downcast, it says. His countenance fell. He was ticked. He was angry. He was mad. But why? Why was Cain so angry? Was he angry at Abel? No. Was he angry because his offerings were not accepted by God? No. Cain was angry to the response of pain he felt when he was rejected by God. Cain's anger stemmed from pain. If you look behind the mask of anger, you will find pain. Because unbridled anger stems from unresolved pain. Repeat that with me. Unbridled anger stems from unresolved pain. That is better than Dr. Phil stuff right there. Because the people around us who are angry all the time, they have the most unresolved pain. You see, physical and emotional pain is very similar in a lot of ways. With physical pain, when we get injured, we sew it up, we brace it up, we put a cast on it, we bandage it up. And in time, if we protect it, in time it will heal itself. And eventually we can take off the cast or the bandage or the stitches. Eventually we can take that off and the pain will go away. It's gone. We're healed. Emotional pain we bandage with anger. And here's why. Because if we leave our pain exposed and we don't cover it up, if we leave our pain exposed and don't cover it up, it will get agitated. And we will constantly be hurting. So when we have unresolved pain, we cover it up with something, and that something we cover it up with is anger. So if anything or anyone comes close to touching that tender spot, if someone comes close to that painful spot in our lives, you've got to back them down. You've got to keep them away from touching that thing that hurts so much. So you use anger to push them away. I mean, nobody wants to come up to you when you're mad. The difference between the physical pain and the emotional pain is this. Emotional pain does not heal over time. It doesn't heal over time. The emotional pain you have unresolved, the more anger you need to cover it up. So you go through life with unresolved pain. Your boss says something degrading you, you get angry. Your spouse says something hurtful to you, and you get angry. The more and more pain that has us, the more and more pain that's unresolved, the more and more anger that builds up. Anger grows and builds until you're completely overtaken by anger. And anger begins to define who you are. Because that's the way to survive. That's the way to keep people from touching that painful spot inside you. And anytime someone brings something up or does something that resembles pain, the only way you know to relieve that pain, and when you get close to touching that wound, the response is anger. You may be in a relationship right now. This very second, a marriage, a parent, child, a grandchild, a friend, you may be in a relationship right now and you are thinking, why can't they talk to me about this? Every time I bring up X, and you can fill in the blank, every time I bring this up, they get mad at me. This is why. This is why. They respond with anger because there is a deep pain happening here. Every time you get close to touching that unresolved pain, their response is going to be with anger. So when you bring up the topic, it exposes that pain, and they have to back you down. They have to put distance between you and them with anger. So we live these bandaged lives as our unbridled anger stems from unresolved pain. Kind of sounds simple, doesn't it? But see, there's a deeper consequence here, though. When we allow our unresolved pain to turn into unbridled anger, look again at what verse 7 says. God says, if you do well, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do well, sin is lurking at the door. Its desire is for you. But you must master it. If we leave our unbridled anger to bandage our unresolved pain, then sin will be lurking at our door and it will desire to have us. Let me tell you what happened to Cain. Cain allowed his unbridled anger to grow so big that he went out and he killed. He murdered. He slaughtered his own brother. And Cain spent the rest of his life cut off by God, cut off by his family, and cut off by everything that he cherished in his life because of his unresolved pain. And if you do not address this unresolved pain, it will lead to a destiny or an action that will destroy your entire life. It's lurking at your door. Because there will come a point, trust me, there will come a point when he or she just can't take it anymore. If you walk around with this mask of anger, and you're in a marriage or relationship or have a child or something, there will be a point when they are just not going to take it anymore. They just can't. There will come a time when your kids, come a time when your kids will deem you, will classify you as an angry person and a dangerous person. And I guarantee when they do that, they will cut you off from seeing or having a relationship with your grandkids. You will be cut off from relationships, and eventually you will be cut off from God. God tells us we must be willing to master it. We must be willing to master it. We must take off this bandage of anger, no matter how painful it is, and let it heal. Think about this. If we constantly respond in anger, it will cause our kids pain. If we constantly respond in anger, it will cause our kids pain. And you know how they're going to deal with their unresolved pain? Anger. Anger. And they're going to pass it along to their kids. And they're going to pass it along to their kids. And you can see how some of us have lived this vicious cycle of over and over and over again. And today we draw the line in the sand. Today we draw the line in the sand and say, God, I'm not passing this on to my kids and their kids. It stops right now. Right now it stops. Today we're going to take off this mask of anger and deal with the unresolved pain in our lives. And I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm going to tell you a secret that I want you to know as honestly as I can. If you wore or wear this mask of anger, I prayed for you this week. I pray for you each and every day this week if you wear this mask of anger. And I kind of do that of every mask, but I especially prayed for you hard this week in my daily prayer life if you wear this mask of anger. And you know what I prayed? My prayer for God for you this week that you would have a horrible week. I pray you had a horrible week. I pray that this was one of your worst weeks ever. I pray that at your job, at your home, in your family, in your friends, I pray this because to deal with unresolved pain is difficult. It is very, very difficult. And I pray that if you wear this mask of anger, you had a horrible week. And that you're coming here this morning seeking, ready, willing, and open to change. I pray that your life this week was so filled with anger and you were so frustrated that you're ready to put a stop to it this morning. That was my prayer. Because the only way to take off this mask of anger is to look at the unresolved pain in your life. Look past the anger and deal with the pain. And when we do that, it starts. Now I'm going to start telling us how we take this mask off. And this pain of anger, when we deal with the pain, it starts with forgiveness. That's not something I'm sure you wanted me to say this morning. You probably wanted me to say, pray without ceasing for revenge on this person or this situation. But it begins with forgiving the people who have hurt us the most. Because there's two types of pain in our life. There's pain on a surface level, and that pain we can quickly and easily identify with. That pain, and we can forgive that quickly. This level of pain is about forgiving quickly, and this is how we do this. When someone or something makes us angry, or someone we love in our relationship makes us angry, we say, when you did this, it made me feel like this. When you said, I look fat in that shirt, it made me fil like you didn't love me, or you didn't respect me, or that maybe I did look fat in the shirt, but... Or when you did this, it made me feel like this. Because if you come at them any other way, they will defend their actions. I guarantee you, they will defend their actions and their words, and you have not addressed your pain in your life. And the second level of pain, this is the unresolved pain that's been with us a very, 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 very long time. That unresolved pain that was caused by an unstable home that we grew up in. Unresolved pain that was maybe defined in a situation with a classmate in elementary school or high school. Maybe it was caused by a teacher or a sibling. We all have those moments. Those moments in our life that have defined us, that we go way back. And that for some reason it hit on an unresolved pain that we've been carrying for forever. And maybe it was something that happened on the bus when we were in 3rd grade. But every time we hear that person's name, we got that conflict on the bus, we get angry again. We may never see him again. It's that pain that we think we've hidden and we've compressed, but it comes out when we don't expect it. We've all covered up this pain for a very long time. And the funny thing is this pain even has defined who we are and how we function in relationships. If you ever react in anger, I'm telling you have this. If your first natural reaction is anger, you have to work to resolve that pain by going through a process of forgiveness. And as I said, it's not easy. That deeper pain is not easy. And it's hard, especially if that person is no longer living or in your life. It's hard because that pain is so deeply embedded that it will take more time and work. And so you begin a process of prayer and counseling and reading books on forgiveness. And those are just some ways that you can work through that deep embedded anger in your life. And begin to forgive that person, even if they're not present in your life anymore. So before we leave here this morning, let us make a commitment. Let's each of us make a commitment to take off this mask of anger. Let's deal with our unresolved pain. And let's stop. Let's stop passing it on to our kids. Things that we wish we could change now before it's too late. Let us pray. Gracious and wonderful God, we